So this video is going to show you how nesting works. So in HTML, one of the very fundamental lessons that you need to learn is how to nest things properly. And so I'm going to show you how nesting is working, and this is based on the files divsnesting.html and the corresponding CSS file. All right, so when you last saw this, if you last saw this, you saw that I added a div and I gave it all of the properties of a box model, width, height, padding, border, and margin. And you notice that this div now shows up as a box, right? The takeaway from this video is going to be about nesting. Notice that the body of an HTML document is properly nested. All of the elements are properly nested within it. The body tag surrounds all of the elements that are included in an HTML page that show up in the viewport. And as I've highlighted these things, you can see that the page has shown those highlights on the right-hand side. So when I create an H1, this element has to stand on its own so it can occupy the full size of the browser window and can act like a block level element. Divs are block level elements, headings are block level elements, paragraphs are, there are several others, block quote is one, ULs and OLs are all block level elements. So most of the elements that we work with can take on the characteristics of a box and use the box model for its formatting. So what I'm going to do here is show you that if I put another div inside of this div, that div is going to also take on the characteristics of the box model that I have used, right? And so this is a nested div. And I want to show you how curious this is because it actually kind of layers it in a strange way, right? It's the last, this is the last element started on the page. And so if I nest a div within a div and it has the characteristics that I've listed above in the CSS, it's going to show up with the same exact width, height, padding, border, and margin. So what we're seeing here, this is a little bit tricky, but I need it to be clear that HTML and CSS are going to honor everything that you put into the sheet, and they're going to try and render it on the page exactly as you've specified it. And because we've specified two divs that have a width of 400, a height of 200, padding, border, and margin, even though this box is 400 by 200, it also knows that this box is 400 by 200, and instead of allowing this box to exist on its own inside of this element, the default is to show everything that it possibly can to the truest extent. And if that means it doesn't fit within the box, then it doesn't fit within the box. So even though I'm nesting the elements here, what I'm also seeing is that these nested divs need to honor what the CSS code looks like. It's tricky stuff, but I want you to understand that sometimes you don't see things that act how you expect them to intuitively, and that's because the browser has to apply rules equally all the time. So hopefully this helps you to understand a bit more about styling divs and nesting them. And in the next video, what I'm going to show you are some of the overflow options that you can use within the box model so that you can control how this looks.